Hey there, Keepers! Welcome to Book Talk, and today I am here to talk about Kingdom Keepers 7, The Insider, the final installment in the Kingdom Keepers series, or as we know now, the first Kingdom Keepers series, but we'll talk more about that later. So, first of all, the rating. I give this book 5 golden stars for a conclusion to a series. It was marvelous. I loved it. I loved every second. I couldn't put it down. I was always on the edge of my seat, reading every chance that I possibly could. That's what Kingdom Keepers books usually do to me. So, a brief summary before we get into spoilers. So, in this book, it's been 3 years since the end of Kingdom Keepers 6, and the Keepers have kind of gone on with their lives, whatever, until prom night for Finn and Amanda. Finn is told that they have to cross over because something's going on at the Disney headquarters in Burbank. So then the Keepers are flung straight back into their work and have to travel to Burbank, and basically, it's just a mishmash of battle and a fight for the kingdom in the final battle. If you don't want to get spoiled, spoilers start now. So, if you haven't read the book yet and you're planning on it, which I hope you are, bye! Welcome back if you're here. That means you've read the book, so let's talk about it. Okay, so this book was so amazing. That's just all I want to say. When I first started reading it, and it was in present tense, that's one of my big pet peeves with books, so I wasn't so sure about that, but then I started to get used to it. I did get used to it. And the first, up until the first time the Keepers crossed over on their own without, telling the Imagineers, which was about 100 pages in, I think, I was getting upset because I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it didn't really feel like a Kingdom Keepers book. It felt slower, and it felt just weird was all I know how to describe it, but then it did pick up. Now, one thing before I get into the book I want to talk about is the reader involvement with Kingdom Keepers Insider, which was letting readers write along with the book. Now, I did not participate in that because I didn't want to find out what was happening in the book when he was writing it. I wanted to, when I got the book, just to read it and be surprised as I read it. So, I was a little worried because he was letting readers write parts of it and putting the excerpts in there. And for me, as much as that sounds like a good idea, and I'm all for fan fiction, for me, I think fan fiction should be kept as fan fiction. So I was a little worried, but in the end, I did like it because some of the writing there was very amazing. So, some of the readers were really good writers. I liked that Ridley, but it was kind of like in the first half or the first third of the book, but once Ridley really started to get deep into the story, he stopped using the reader involvement, so I think that was a good thing because, you gave us something but kept it controlled so you could still have your story. First, I want to talk about with crossing over, because I was talking about crossing over. I was very excited, I don't know about you guys, but I was very excited for the return of V1.6, because we had been dealing with, since Book 5, we had been dealing with DHI 2.0, which, while it was technically good because it allowed them to really remain in all clear without trying, there wasn't as much suspense then because they couldn't get hurt. So for me, it was maybe because once Book 5 happened, it kind of felt different than the rest of the Kingdom Keepers once they got out of the parks. So I think Kingdom Keepers 7, what I liked about it was it really felt like the first 4 Kingdom Keepers books, which was the Kingdom Keepers I initially fell in love with. And 5 and 6 were amazing. Trust me, 6 up until 7 was my favorite book. I don't know if 7 surpasses 6, but I think it does. They were full of suspense, they were amazing, but they did feel a little different from the original Kingdom Keepers. There was kind of like that divide. So now, but with Book 7, I felt like we were flung straight back into what Kingdom Keepers used to be, and like going on rides, and the rides going haywire, and it's just, even though there wasn't as much of it, it was still, nothing is going to compare to the original Kingdom Keepers in Disney World, but I think 7 came close, and I really liked that it felt like I was back in the 8th grade reading the first 4 books. So anyway, as I was saying, I liked 1.6 because that was just another aspect of that. When we got to 2.0, there were certain rules of DHI, like you had to work to go all clear, and if you got hurt there, you got hurt, your sleeping body received that same injury. So with 1.6, with 2.0 coming in and those rules weren't really prevalent anymore because you were always all clear, DHI never meant being superhuman. DHI meant just you were a hologram and they were pretty much themselves. So I liked the change that we got back to 1.6. Let me discuss the characters. Oh my god, it was just amazing. The character, there was so much character development in this book, just, I was concerned originally because I said it's going to be weird when they aged up 3 years, they're not going to be like themselves, but the Keepers were just perfect. I think there was a lot of big character development for everyone. You see that they've grown up. In general, I think the Kingdom Keepers characters are very real and relatable. Like, as much as you love, when I read other books, as much as I love all those characters, when you think about it, Kingdom Keepers are the most real and relatable characters I've ever read about. You know, you feel like they're real people that you could know, that their emotions are very real, and I think that's something Ridley does a really good job with. After book 5, I kind of like stopped liking Finn, but I did like him again in 7. I did feel really bad for Finn because he was just still depressed about Dillard after all those years, and then there was something else that came in that I'm not going to discuss until later, but Finn was pretty much depressed through the entire book, and he had those points when he would just start to sit down and cry, and, you know, Finn was dealing with depression throughout this entire thing, and that was really a big character development for him, I think, was learning how to deal with that and learning how to move on, and that was a big theme in this book. Willow was just... Willow, who is my favorite Kingdom Keeper, Willow was amazing. Just in every single way possible, she was amazing. She was always there when they had to solve the puzzles, but other than that, you never really heard about her battling. She kind of stayed on the sidelines, but then when her and Finn crossed over and they went to the Indian camp and the wolf shaman was there and the headless horseman, and Finn couldn't go all clear, and she just went all superwoman and went all clear and just defeated them. And I was reading that in social studies because we had some free time or whatever, and I was about to start crying because of the character development in her. And I was just so proud of her. There was a sense of pride. I don't think I've ever been that proud of a character because the amount of development that happened in 1 second. And then throughout the book, we just see her. She's like stepping up in the battles, and she was just fighting and really... There was a lot of quotes, too, about learning, about finding herself and being confident in herself, and I liked that there was a lot of paragraphs about, oh, people had always overlooked her, and nobody took her seriously, but now she was ready to just be this awesome chick. Philby, I think, learned a little bit more about caring for others, specifically Willa. Charlene was really good. Maybeck became a lot more caring. Maybeck was always funny, but he could be, like, really rude and insensitive, but Maybeck became just, like, this caring guy. Amanda and Jess learned more about not being as frightened and closed off and everything. I think there was development for all of them, mostly Willow. Like I said, the development in Willow was, like, phenomenal. The amount of new characters in terms of Disney characters that got involved in this book made me way too excited. We had the start of it was with Raja. Raja showed up. Then we had Violet from the... Violet from The Incredibles was a huge part of this. And, like, I was so excited for her. I think at one point we had the Tramp from Lady and the Tramp. The Panther from Jungle Book. I don't know his name. Rapunzel. Meg came back briefly. Dumbo. Minnie. Remy and the rats from Ratatouille. Like, how more awesome can you get, Ridley? The only thing I would have loved to see Belle involved, and because she has been a huge part of it in terms of helping the Keepers, and a huge character, she's the most prevalent Disney character that's been involved in these books so far. I was really upset that he didn't include Ariel, because she's been such a huge part of these books since book 4. Not a huge part, but she's always been there, the main Disney character that you think about when you think about good Disney characters being involved in Kingdom Keepers. My thought first went to Ariel. Oh my god, with Story Ming. Now, I knew from the time she came in book 5 that something was not right with Story. I suspected it. I did not like that girl. Nobody liked that girl. I had like 25 pieces of evidence that she was not who she said she was, and I could have written like an essay on why she was a traitor, but what? And then when she showed up a few times in 7, and that made me mad whenever she showed up, because I really don't like her. I think the first time she showed up, I was reading at lunch, and I just threw the book down and started cursing. But as she was helping them more towards the end of 6... No, not then, but really in 7 when she showed up a few times and she was helping them, I was starting to get doubting of my theory, like, oh, maybe I'm wrong, maybe she's not a traitor, and what actually happened with her was beyond anything I could have imagined. Ridley was like, just wow. Until it happened, I did not see it coming at all. Even when she was like swelling up and saying like, I forgot it's fresh water, I thought like, oh, is she like an evil mermaid or something? But I think Ridley he outdid himself there, because I don't think anyone saw that coming. I did not see that coming. That Story Ming was actually Ursula. Now, like I said, I knew she was a traitor, but like, Ursula? Are you kidding me? Ursula? So yeah, she just, boop, there, pop goes the body and out comes Ursula. But then, what I didn't know until she actually showed up and Ursula was dead, that Story Ming was not like a fake person. Story Ming was actually was a girl that Ursula just took over. And so yeah, I was happy that I was right about Story, that something was up with her, but wow. And then when the actual girl woke up, and the poor thing was like in shock because she didn't remember anything that had happened. So I was upset when they just took her to Club 33 and said it's a dream, go to sleep, blah blah blah. Because as much as I did want her to find her family, I wanted her to stick around for a little bit, you know, I wanted to actually meet Story Ming, because I had it. I met Ursula, not Story Ming, so I wanted to meet the character of Story Ming. But hey, you know, there was other things going on. The thing with Dillard, though, that kind of creeps me out a little bit, because when he first came, I'm like, I had been flipping through the book at one point, and I saw his name, and I'm like, crap, I spoiled myself. But I was excited, like, yeah, Dillard couldn't come back. But no, they brought him back as like a hologram thing, and he wasn't even Dillard. He was just like a supercomputer that looked like Dillard, and I give Finn a lot of credit for staying with him, because honestly, at first Finn was like mad and not wanting it, which I understood Finn, and I don't know how he dealt with it afterwards, because if my best friend died and then they gave her to me in like the form of a hologram, but she only looked and sounded like herself, like she wasn't saying anything she would have said, she wasn't acting like herself, like it wasn't really her, I don't think I would be able to do that. So I do give Finn a lot of credit. Even though it helped them, and it was a big help, the Dillard thing was weird. I'm sorry. I can't, I wasn't, it's like, oh yeah, he's here, but he's not. He's a supercomputer. So they were he was basically just a walking Siri. I think Finn might have described him as that at one point. So yeah, relationships. Now, the relationship between the keepers in general, it was something that I had always felt in my heart reading the books, that I felt that they were always like best friends and they were like a family. And when I wrote my big fan fiction, Willa's Great Adventure, I did put that in there, that they always mentioned, and that they felt like a family. But even though you felt it in your heart reading the other books that this is how they feel about each other, it was never spoken. And then Finn said it in the eulogy, and there was in a lot of paragraphs how much they cared about each other. And that was one of the other things I loved about Kingdom Keeper 7, was the things that you had always known were there were finally said. They were always like really, really caring about each other. And even at the end, they're talking about how they're a family and they have each other, and it was very emotional. Now romantic relationships. I was, the only good thing that I first envisioned about them being seniors was that there was more opportunity for romance. And while nobody kissed, it was the most gorgeous thing I had ever seen. You had Finn and Amanda, like, whenever Finn was about to get hurt, Amanda was, like, screaming and inconsolable. Then you had Willa and Philby, who were always holding hands. Charlene and Maybach were adorable, because at the start of the book, Charlene was in LA because she became like a big Hollywood star, and Maybach was, like it said that Maybach wasn't himself since she left. So there was a lot of adorable, just unspoken things just written in the narrative, or that they were always, a pair of them would always be holding hands, or smiling at each other, or concerned about each other. That's what I love about the Kingdom Keepers' romantic relationships, that even though nobody's kissing, which is usually what makes you go gaga, and nobody's officially together, there's the little things that just make your heart flutter with joy. Speaking of Charlene, another thing about the Kingdom Keepers being like a family, in that relationship was Charlene, there was something where Charlene said, oh, she didn't want the Hollywood life anymore, she just wanted this simple life back with the Keepers, their family, Willa and Philby. And I'm just reading, towards the end of the book, they're battling the soldier from the Wizard of Oz, and Philby gets stabbed. I'm just like, oh yeah, Will and Philby are battling together. Okay, so Philby gets stabbed in the shoulder. He can't move because he was in all clear and he got into a wall, and then he got stabbed, so he couldn't go back into all clear because he was hurt, so he couldn't get out of the wall. And Willa needed the spear, so they haven't even kissed yet, except for the end of Kingdom Keeper 6, which wasn't even written, per se, shown on screen. They weren't even officially a thing, they were just holding hands. They knew they liked each other, but they weren't even officially boyfriend and girlfriend yet. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Willow just looks at him and, I love you. Okay, because it was probably 3 a.m. when I read that. It was. And I was just reading in bed, and I just lean off the edge of my bed and start silently screaming. One thing I do want to talk about that has to be addressed, heavily, the death of Wayne. So I kind of feared that was coming, so I said, what if he wants to go full circle? You know, in the first book we introduced Wayne, and now in the last book we get... I did cry when he died as soon as he got stabbed. It was the last thing I read before I went to sleep, and there were tears in my eyes. There was that battle going on in Toontown, and this was really around the section when the book started to first pick up, like I talked about earlier. And, so we have this battle in Toontown going on, and when Judge Doom came in, oh my god, I was first really excited when he came in, because I love Who Framed Roger Rabbit, so to see characters from that get involved, even if it was in the form of an Overtaker, I thought that was exciting. Not that I wanted him to win or anything, but I just thought it was exciting. But then I just wanted him to go burn in literary hell for the rest of all eternity. So we have this battle in Toontown going on, and Amanda and Jess got involved, which I was really excited about in the get-go, that they finally got them out of Mrs. Nash's house. That might have been before this happened, but that was something I was excited about, that they finally got them out of Mrs. Nash's house. So, because in 5 and 6, Amanda and Jess kind of and we didn't really see them a lot at all. I mean, they were there occasionally, but they weren't really actively involved. And to get Amanda and Jess back was this huge thing that I was so excited about. That was another aspect of it feeling like a Kingdom Keepers book again, like the old Kingdom Keepers books, because Amanda and Jess were back in it. Anyway, so then they were all there battling, and I don't remember what they were trying to do. They were trying to get something from them, I think, or the Overtakers were just there. And so then here you have Philby and Finn are on the floor, in pain from the Evil Queen, and Jess was too busy drawing. Amanda was too busy trying to fight off the Evil Queen and everybody else, and Jess was busy looking at her drawing. What was Maybeck doing? Maybeck and Charlene, I don't know, they were battling someone else, and then we have Willa here with the knife to her throat, so nobody could save Willa, and at this point I was already hyperventilating and terrified, because oh hey, no, don't kill Willa, please God, no. This battle was already terrifying and horrifying. You were already hyperventilating, and then Wayne walks in, and at first I was really excited. Oh, because before that, Finn was in Club 33, and the return of Wayne was a big, huge moment. I was very excited for that when Wayne came back. Huge, wow, yes, finally, he's not a traitor, told you, here he is, talking to Finn, being cryptic as ever, and again, feels just like the old Kingdom Keepers book, because again, Wayne wasn't really in 5 and 6 that much, but now, boom, Wayne's back. So, then we're in the battle. Wayne walks in, and I had a bad feeling ever since he looked at Finn, and it was a lot of paragraphs describing Finn and Philby, they didn't like the way he was looking at him, and they didn't want this to happen, but then he saved Willa. No, he gave Jess the pen, and Jess drew a picture, and that saved Willa, because it separated her and Judge Doom, and everything seemed well, Wayne saved the day, yeah! And he was battling them and taunting them, and then completely out of nowhere, just whoosh, boom, in the chest. And it says and he plunged it through his chest, and I'm I cried, because Finn was screaming and crying, and I didn't know what to think. I didn't want to think it was permanent. I just wanted to think that he was a DHI again, like in book 3. But, you knew that couldn't happen, because if he was a DHI, either he would have been all clear, so the knife couldn't have hurt him, and he wouldn't be dead and bleeding, or if he wasn't all clear, then that the knife wound would have hurt his sleeping body anyway. So So then you knew it was permanent, and then we had to move on to the funeral. And well, that was the only time we got to see Wanda, which I really like Wanda, so at the same time you're excited for Wanda to come back as a character. The funeral was, I remember I got up to it when I was in lunch, which was my 4th period in school, and I had to force myself not to read all day because I knew that I couldn't read that in school or it wouldn't be pretty. And I got to health class, I finished 8th period, second to last period of the day. I finished taking a test, and I tried to read it, I really did, but I couldn't. Then I had to stay after school for like a half an hour, and maybe even 45 minutes, and I still couldn't read it. So I finally get home, finally can just go lock myself in my room and read it, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I couldn't bring myself to finish that and have that closure, and like, that would be the finality, the end. So it took me a long, long time that day before, I think I didn't read it until before bed. So I got through it. The quote that Finn's eulogy, the quote that really got to me was, yeah. Like Dad said, I love this boy, and Wanda hugging him. I was very excited for this Mickey plotline to come back in because it was mentioned in a cliffhanger at the end of book 4 and then never spoken of again. Like, not even mentioned or thought about. So it's like, what the hell? I thought Mickey was in trouble, but then we get this back, and now this is the plotline of book 7, is trying to rescue Mickey or find out. So Wayne says that they didn't just capture Mickey, that Mickey is destroyed. So that kind of got like, can he come back? Because that was insane. You didn't know what he meant by that, but then we figured out that there is a ripped up picture of Mickey, and it had to do with the myth of Osiris in Egyptian mythology, and that they had to put Mickey back together. They had to put the pieces of Mickey back together to the pieces of the picture to resurrect Mickey so he could save the kingdom. So that was pretty much, after Wayne's death, that was the plot line of the 7th book. They put the picture together, Mickey pops out, and the first thing he wants to know, they're like saying, Mickey, can you save us? And he's just like looking confused, and Willa just points over to the lake, and she's like, she's over there, Mickey, because Willa knew that the first thing he wanted to know when he got out was, where's Minnie? Which was like, oh, I started fangirling over mice, and I was cheering when Mickey came back, please. I was so happy, and then when he hugged Minnie, I was cheering along with all the characters in the book. I was clapping and cheering, and then I realized I was fangirling over mice. But it's okay, because it's Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, so it's okay to fangirl over mice in that situation. So, I mean, it was just great, and then so Mickey... now we have Mickey involved. Okay, so the end. The end. They're engaged in this final battle, and everything's going horribly wrong. The kingdom is in shambles. They find out they're trying to gas the park and blow it up. So, basically, everything that can go wrong is going wrong. The end was really stressful, so then they bring back Mickey, and they have to get the sorcerer cap and the wand, and so everybody's fighting. Oh, after the story thing, Violet almost died, which I was about to start crying, like, don't kill her too. But then Rapunzel came back and like, flower gleam and glow, let your power shine, and Rapunzel fixed her up. Finn is climbing the hill to battle Chernabog. Everybody else was pretty much just like battling people, and Philby and Amanda were trying to blow up the bridge so the Overtakers couldn't get over. And then, so... Philby almost died, which I was going to freak out because, like, Willa had just said she loves him, and here he goes. He's tumbling towards the rocks, thinking he's gonna die, but then Amanda got him. Oh, yeah, one more character I forgot that got involved. Elsa! I knew that was gonna happen because on the back of the book, Ridley put a quote from her, like Elsa said, and I was excited from the get-go, and she finally gets in there at the end, and with her ice powers, like magical, fluttery, perfect ice powers. So Elsa, the involvement of Elsa was the most amazing thing. And she was like bowing to Mickey, and Mickey was bowing to her. It was pretty awesome. Then there was what happened with Finn. Finn's atop of the Matterhorn, or Big Thunder Mountain, battling Chernabog. And he realizes that the only way he's going to kill Chernobog is to electrocute him and make him fall off the hill. But to do that, the same has to happen to him. I started crying right at the get-go. I was going to lose it. I thought he was dead. Elsa and Violet looked over and, like, Finn wasn't there, and they were, like, crying, and I thought he was dead. I thought that was it. But then what happened was Mickey restored the park and everything, and the park, and because the OTs were dead and gone. They beat them all, but then Mickey was restoring the park, and Elsa's, like, crying, oh, they're gone, and the keepers aren't anywhere, and Violet and Elsa are, like, talking about them as if they're all dead, and I was so scared that he was going to end it with all the keepers dying because they weren't there, but I was confused because all the rest of the keepers hadn't been in a situation that would have killed them. Only Finn and maybe Philby and Amanda. Oh, but then the electricity came back on and they were all back and it's like sigh of relief, but Finn was still unconscious. And then we had that Amanda moment where Amanda was inconsolable and Amanda was like running to him and big Amanda stuff, and then I thought he was dead. I was crying. Everybody thought he was dead. And then, here comes to save the day, Megara and Rapunzel flying in on Dumbo, just so we can get more character involvement. And they saved him, and he was hugging a man. It was a big moment. Philby tells Finn that he thinks there's more, that they're not done. And that he thinks Wayne obviously knew what he was doing, because Wayne sacrificed himself and left all the messages and blah, blah, blah. And he thinks that Wayne left a message for them in Walt's apartment in the music box that had the Osiris carving. So then all the keepers go to Walt's apartment. And the ending of the last chapter was nice and conclusive, but still setting it up for the next series, which is going to be awesome, but they still set it up for the next series. He was setting it up nicely, like, you know, they're there ready to listen to the message from Wayne. They're ready to find out what happens next, but then they're all like hugging each other and happy, and Maybeck pulls Charlene into him, and Willa and Philby are holding hands, and so the 5 original keepers are there, and it kind of came full circle like how the first book ended, and the kingdom is restored, and they're just all happy to be together, and Willa says, oh, we're going to go off into the park and actually have some fun, and it was a nice ending, but still leaving something open for what's coming next. And then he had to put it in that damn epilogue. We see Tia Dalma just, you know, resurrecting something with a spell. Is she resurrecting Chernobog? Is she resurrecting Maleficent? We don't know. Is she resurrecting both of them? Is she resurrecting Dillard and Wayne? I wish. Oh, one can dream, can't she? And that's how the book ends, with her doing some spell. And I'm like, was that epilogue really necessary? You couldn't have just ended it with the chapter that you had. You had something set up for the next series. Everybody was happy, but then you just go and the epilogue. Alright, so I guess that's it. I think I've said everything I want to say. All my feels, all the shockers. Yeah, that's it. Kingdom Keepers 7 is finished. And the next series is not Kingdom Keepers. It's called The Return. Technically it is Kingdom Keepers, but the series itself is called The Return. So this has been a review of the last Kingdom Keepers book. Bye, everyone.